War for justice. In 2018, there were more than 70 million people who fled from war, persecution, and conflict, according to the United Nations. This has been the highest record in 70 years. The UN also reported that there were 357 killings and 30 enforced disappearances of human rights defenders, journalists, and trade unionists in 47 countries back in 2019. This proves that human rights are disregarded by those in power. The current justice system is flawed, and the costs of peace of the community, as evident with how the rich and powerful manipulate the justice system in their favor. How there is discrimination against the poor, and how wrongful accusations are forced to the less privileged, which trigger them to fight for justice that can cost peace. Justice system is easily manipulated by the rich and powerful. Mostly they are the same people who are supposed to be implementing it. As stated by the UN, institutions that are mostly corrupt are in the judiciary and in the police. These are all the same authorities who write, create, and implement laws governing our society. Laws are enforced to people to follow by these authorities through punishing them for disobedience. Injustice in the system occurs when the lawmakers themselves can go beyond the law. They protect themselves and hide their wrongful doings from the weak and the poor. An example of this is a common reality when government officials hide that they are not paying their taxes, while ordinary citizens are punished with huge penalties for not paying on time. Another pressing reality of basic human rights not being provided according to the UN is that there are approximately 28.5 million primary school-age children who are not studying live in conflict-affected areas. If not only for the trillion-dollar tax evasion, bribery, and theft from Western and high-developed countries, these children can be provided with the resources that they need to access a better home and a quality education. Greed and selfishness initiated and led one wrongful act to another, and the less fortunate suffers more. Instead of authorities focusing on the less privileged citizens, they discriminate against them against violence and inflict violence. 9 out of 10 kids are living in countries where corporal punishment is not fully prohibited, which leaves about 732 children without legal protection, as stated by the UN. Aside from being poor, they are only children who don't have any understanding of the rights they deserve and can fight for, which makes it harder, if not impossible, for them to access fairness. Authorities are not only limited to government institutions. Authorities in our homes, like the parents, particularly fathers, can abuse their power. There were over 338,000 crimes committed to women globally as of 2019, according to the UN. There are 3,670 years their clients collectively spent on wrongfully incarcerated. The data is only limited to the clients and do not represent the whole, yet it is already equivalent to 20 years of imprisonment for over 180 people. This is still much lower than the overall number who were wrongfully judged guilty despite innocence. Their data indicated that socio-economic status is at the prevalent attribute for unfair trial. 82% of those they helped are from the lower classes of their community. They were not properly represented, and they were opposed by rich people. They have higher probabilities of getting convicted. This goes to show that the poor can be easily convicted without a proper defense. Despite these, there are people who risk their lives to protest, to cause conflicts for a purpose, and to open the minds of those who are keeping their eyes shut to those who are suffering. This costs the peace of the community, and they cannot be blamed. They are only crying for help and for justice. Sustainable development, therefore, is threatened by all forms of injustice. Injustice remains a daily reality as authorities manipulate laws to their favor. These issues costs the society's peace, which in turn causes violence and more injustice against the weak and the poor. If we don't eradicate bias law enforcers, discrimination against the minority, wrongful acts against the less privileged, and all forms of injustices, in worst case scenario, a war is probably imminent.